So Elon Musk, everyone remember him, but like for the past few days, maybe a week or two, he hasn't really been on the forefront of everyone's mind. He's been laying low until last night. He decided to come out with a real whopper. And by whopper, I mean endorsement of an insane white supremacist conspiracy theory, basically giving his thumbs up to the Great Replacement theory that's pushed by some of the most virulent white supremacists and neo-Nazis out there, period. I mean, this is really odious stuff. Why don't you pull up
you can find things Hitler wrote that are very similar to this, and maybe I will actually. I'll look that up.
And so the context for the tweet that he responds to this guy who's known as the artist formerly known as Eric, a verified account here. He's responding to a guy who tweeted a video from like a Stop Anti-Semitism ad campaign, where like a dad is talking to his kid about like, I saw that you posted something like Hitler was right. Like, go into that synagogue and tell them yourself. If you want, like you want to hide behind your keyboard, go into that synagogue and say Hitler was right. And it was like 700,000 people post Hitler was right every day, like Stop Anti-Semitism. And this is what this tweet that Elon responded to is in response to.
Wait, can we show the tweet? That I don't.
Yeah, do you want to understand? I'm sorry. Do you want to? We can watch the video. Let's watch the video. But
yeah, I don't want people to think this is like some sort of mealy mouth, like the dude in this case, Elon Musk, literally came out and said, yeah, exactly this. Like there's no parsing words here.
Okay, so the original, just to clarify, I don't know if you need to watch the video, but so this person is saying like a lot of people are coming out anonymously and saying Hitler was right. I haven't seen a lot of that, but I do think like if they are doing that, Elon Musk's Twitter is not attentive to it. I think there's definitely been a rise of anti-Semitism and that sort of sentiment since Elon taken over. I think that's fair to say. And, you know, I think saying Hitler was right after October 7th is obviously repugnant and disgusting.
I mean, also Hitler was right is a right-wing dog whistle. Like, let's make that clear because of the times we're in right now and people, because of what's going on in Israel and in Gaza, we should be clear that the phrase Hitler was right is a right-wing meme. This isn't like some sort of, this is.
I mean, it's literally just, it's pro-Hitler. Right. I mean, right?
No, but the wording of it, because like, you wouldn't just come out and say like Hitler was right unless you agreed with it, but also it's a meme among right wingers to signal to each other that they're sort of like in on the deal.
It's like a chant. It's chant speak, Yeah,
it's like people say almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Gotcha. So yeah, we can go to this guy, the tweet that Elon was responding to. So yeah, this dumbass. He says, okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. You scroll up, Bradley. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit out now about Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want truth said to your face? There it is. And Elon Musk, the owner of this website, with 5.1 million views, says, you have said the actual truth. And he continues, the ADL unjustly attacks the majority of the West, despite the majority of the West supporting the Jewish people and Israel. This is because they cannot, by their own tenets, criticize the minority groups who are their primary threat, which is news to me that ADL can't criticize minority groups. It is not right and needs to stop. I mean, insane.
Right. I mean, we should also say that his further explanation, which doesn't quite help him, but that didn't come until a little while later when he was getting called out. You literally, that when he says like this, exactly this, you had, you want to talk about hordes of people in his mentions cheering it on, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, basically giving Elon props for basically saying what they believe or endorsing what they believe in that first tweet. And then in the second one, he basically says without any, no, don't get me wrong. This is exactly what I think. He's making it quite clear.
And this is all in response to being asked not to say Hitler is right online.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
but we should also be explicit here and talk about why they're talking about this now, and that's because they view, oh, look at these brown people, these Arabs, these Muslims, defending the Palestinian cause. And there is obvious, people being on different sides here. And to Elon and the white supremacists, they don't view, they view it very black and white. They don't view it like, oh, there are Jewish groups supporting this side and there's Arabs who support that side. And it doesn't line up exactly into their West versus the world worldview, which is primarily a very white supremacist idea as well. So they're basically saying that because what's going on now, Jewish people brought it upon themselves because Jewish people support, historically civil rights for black people, for example. And now you see a lot of black activists standing up for Palestinians. So this is the white supremacists saying, oh, look, you supported them and now they don't support you here, which again is not accurate altogether whatsoever. But this is their black and white worldview.
It's an insane collapse.
And this is what they're saying.
It's an insane. It's the same collapse of Israel and Jewish people that Candace Owens is doing as well, which is like, Jewish people participate in civil rights. Great. The influence of Israel as a nation is not one of spreading CRT. Like, look at how they treated the new historians, Elon Pappy and Avi Shlaim, in the 2000s, right? The war on terror and the influence, that influence of the Muslims as just pathologically driven by sort of Quranic terror and hate, as opposed to situating these things in historical context. That's the influence. It's not look at all let's do wokeism and diversity and stuff.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I also interpreted it. I also interpreted it to mean, the classic, like you were saying, white supremacist talking points that Jewish people control our society and are flooding,
right,
are trying to win the demographic wars by flooding the country with black and brown people in order to weaken white Western society.
It is literally both. They're obviously using their old tropes and conspiracy theories, the Great Replacement theory, and they're basically finagling it into the current context on Israel and Palestine. In order to, because they see an opportunity. That's, if you see, there's a lot of white supremacists playing both sides here. You see a lot of them weaponizing the pro-Palestinian cause, and then you see a lot of them cheering on Israel with anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim rhetoric. I mean, they're clearly using this to try to bring in people to their ranks.
Well, for the unsavvy white supremacists, it's a real Sophie's Choice, real two-button meme, because on one side you have support ethnic cleansing of brown people, and on the other side you have be anti-Semitic. And so, you have they have a hard time deciding exactly which one they want to do. Christian evangelicals have an easy time because they can do both they're able to do both at the same time. But I think your average groiped up 19-year-old online is just so used to posting Hitler memes that they can't really help themselves.
Right. And of course, this is endorsed by one of the most powerful people in the world. I mean, who has countless government contracts, countless major investors, big banks who are funding his various endeavors, like X, aka Twitter. He runs one of the largest, or at least one of the most influential in the news and media space, social media platforms in the world. He's the CEO of one of the major car companies. He's the CEO of one of the space exploration company, who's sending out multiple satellites all over the surrounding Earth. I mean, this is a guy with immense power. And I think, the idea that this is what we shouldn't be focused on if we're going to be picking and choosing what we go after when it comes to hate speech and anti-Semitism. And instead, we've seen organizations who have been nonstop outing and doxing 18 and 19-year-old college kids. We've seen them completely quiet on this.
He's also a South African born guy who extracted wealth from his family, extracted wealth from Emerald Mine, and the degree to which they owned it or just owned a stake in it is up for debate. But also never said a word about apartheid until like the 90s when he said, "Not really a good use of my life to enforce it. So I'm going to go make money elsewhere." So like, I think we are seeing. I think the suspicion like can be really like. I really suspect Elon is an actual white supremacist. I just think that suspicion is justified. I mean, not least. I mean, this is I think evidence of it.
I mean, yeah, you don't need to be like a card-carrying KKK member to be a white supremacist. Like, that's what a lot of people don't seem to understand. Like, he clearly harbors very specific feelings based on race. I mean, he truly thinks white people are being oppressed by Jews and other minority groups, which is ludicrous. It's just ludicrous, and it's a white supremacist talking point.
It's also hard to imagine somebody who wants to have that many kids but doesn't want to take care of any of them. For the sake of like demographics or like the human race as being anything other than racially motivated, because it's just like not like Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon just loves kids. He just has them to, because he's like trying to win some invisible demographics battle.
But that's the interesting part, I think, about his worldview, which is like in all of his interviews, he always talks about like the, so-called woke mind virus being like a existential threat in terms of like that it could be like a force to wipe out a certain subsection of the population, which is also, and then he combines that also with like in the Rogan interview he did recently, he was talking about that guy that like antinatalist guy that was profiled in the New York Times, and how like he didn't like that person is like pro, people like not procreating anymore, and he's like so offended by that as like an ideology. So it's like it's this like ethno-nationalist argument he sort of makes against wokeness, as in like we need to be almost like an ethno-nationalist to like combat wokeness, while also combined with this messianic thing of like I need to like literally spread my seed around the world to combat it as well.
But he just loves.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I was gonna say the whole anti-wokeness just still seems so like petty, because we know where like it was centered in, at least, which is that they banned Babylon Bee from Twitter.
Literally,
for like,
that's the
Like
locust.
that's like the kernel of his anti-woke mentality, was that like at some point people decided that Babylon Bee should be banned from Twitter, and he threw a hissy fit about it, and then he forced himself to buy Twitter, and now they're back, and it's just like, oh great, who cares? But he's still on this crusade against like the woke mind virus.
Right. Yeah, I mean, people should know that Brandon is also not like embellishing here. If you look at the text messages with Elon's text messages that were released as part of Twitter's lawsuit when Musk tried to back out of buying the company last year, literally the conversation, the earliest conversation about him acquiring Twitter was his conversation with his ex-wife about the Babylon Bee being banned from Twitter, and she requested that he buy the company in order to bring Babylon Bee back.
It's a scary sign of like where I think this could turn if Israel becomes basically too massively unpopular for right-wing governments to continue humoring, because, and this is the like awful thing when Yair Netanyahu is making these alliances with the alt-right sort of like white supremacists and sharing these memes, like George Soros memes, right? Like that's what this is. And ultimately like those are Nazis, you dumbass. And I just think we're seeing like Candace Owens is realizing like, hey, I'm looking at the polling. She keeps referencing the polling. That's really what's driving her. She's not educating herself with anything other than this is looking bad and my audience doesn't want me to support Israel. And what's her, like the ideological space she's in is a fascist one. It's a white supremacist one. And so, I mean, the anti-Semitism is actually going to be, despite and all the bullshit we get about it, like conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, actual anti-Semitism is a massive urgent problem right now.
Yeah, and it has been for a while. It's been on the rise since,
Right.
2016 at least is when they started noticing the really big boom in anti-Semitism, or at least it being sort of mask off moments for a lot of anti-Semitic groups and the rise in hate crimes, and that coincided with Trump's election.